bonus content first on PlayStation.
So Donald Trump has made roughly 13,316 statements about what he plans to do on day one of his administration. And it's not just Donald Trump. This is some of the politicians do, or a lot of politicians do. Like, on day one, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then eventually it just becomes a list that's impossible. It's hard to get fucking anything done. But let me go ahead and give you what he said, because it's pretty funny. So he says, on day one, I want to enforce United States law. I like how vague and broad that is. Like, what? What does that even mean? He says, begin work on a border wall. You're just going to begin work on it? Pretty sure that needs congressional approval. No, I'm just going to do it. Okay, more. Pursue a constitutional amendment to put term limits on Congress. Okay, now that's interesting. You're certainly not going to be able to do that on day one. But that's an interesting thought. You know, I'm open on term limits. I have, like, mixed feelings on it. I don't think it does what the intended goal is, which people say is, I want to limit corruption. Well, that doesn't really happen, because you could just be in there for a short amount of time and be corrupt. So that has more to do with the funding of the politicians. But I kind of like the idea that the president has term limits. I do think there's something good about that. I don't know how I feel about that with Congress and with, because Bernie Sanders, for example, he's been a senator since 1836. Him and Van Buren were elected the same year. I have no idea if Van Buren was elected in 1836. But he's been in there forever, and he's been good all along. So, there's an argument for him, there's an argument against him. But he's not going to get him done on day one. All right, more. He says, institute a hiring freeze for most federal workers. Eliminate 2 regulations for every one passed. I don't even get... Okay, but that's just so made up. Like, in theory, that sounds good to people on the right, but, like, when you actually have to implement it, it's just ridiculous. So, for example, he wants to eliminate the FDA and the EPA. Well, then, I hope you're ready for many foodborne illnesses to break out across the country. Like, they say these things like there's no consequences, there's no downsides. There's massive downsides! Are you crazy? Of course there are! Okay, more. 5-year ban on White House and congressional officials becoming lobbyists. I'd make that a lifetime ban. Impose lifetime ban on White House officials lobbying for foreign governments. Interesting. Which is not a bad idea, but it's a little weird because, Paul Manafort, his former campaign manager, had ties to Ukraine, had ties to Russia. I'm not saying, by the way, the ones about Trump seem like speculation to me more than have been proven. Paul Manafort has been proven. He does have ties to Russia. He does have ties to Ukraine. And, he wrote that specifically against Hillary Clinton, because Hillary, with her connections to Qatar and Saudi Arabia, which I massively disagree with, too. But Trump himself has connections. He just did a business meeting with people in India who are property owners, businessmen from India, big-time businessmen. But now he's saying, like, okay, impose a lifetime ban on White House officials lobbying for foreign governments. It's weird that, obviously there's double standards. We're talking about Donald Trump here. He says, withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Hey, man, you got a partner on that one if you stick to it. But I fear he might do the same trick that Hillary Clinton was going to do, which is, I'm against it, but we tweaked a few provisions, and now it's no longer the TPP. Now it's the Trump trade deal, TTD, and it's going to be tremendous, believe me. So let's pass it. I think that's still a possibility. Label China a currency manipulator. Oh, boy. Don't spark a trade war. They were warning about that the other day. Begin work to end foreign trading abuses. Lift roadblocks on the Keystone Pipeline. Here we go. By the way, what do you think is going to happen with the Dakota Access Pipeline? If Obama himself doesn't say, okay, green light, go ahead, fuck the protesters, Donald Trump will definitely, he'd probably crack down on them ruthlessly. He says, cancel payments to UN climate change program. Oh, boy. This is the one, I don't think people get how much of a disaster Trump is likely to be on climate change. He thinks it's a Chinese hoax. He said that on Twitter. He said he wants to pull out of the Paris Agreement on day one. It looks like he's going to keep that promise. And we get stuff like this, and it's casual to him. It's like, yeah, just stop worrying about climate change. Well, there are downsides to that, buddy. We're already past the tipping point, according to some scientists. We got to act now. Sea level rise is inevitable, but, even natural disasters that get even worse are coming. They're already increasing. We've had the last decade was like the hottest on record. The time to panic is now. Climate change is not, it's just happening somewhere off in the future. No, it's happening right now. Wait until you get famine and drought and wars over water. I mean, again, people don't really get how disastrous this is. And then he also says, but by the way, this is all first day, so he's not even going to be able to do 10% of this. He says, repeal Obamacare, end the war on coal, begin renegotiating NAFTA, remove criminal illegal aliens, cancel unconstitutional executive actions, which, by the way, means all executive orders that Obama did. They're just going to cancel all of them. Mitch McConnell already told them, I want you to cancel all of them. And there's a lot of good ones Obama did. So, for example, the increase for overtime payment. Obama expanded people who get overtime pay by law. Trump and McConnell were like, yeah, I'm for the working man. Anyway, scrap that one. And he says, begin filling the Supreme Court vacancy, cancel federal funding to sanctuary cities, suspend immigration from terror-prone places. So again, he would just say, all the Muslim countries, whatever, ban them all. Anyway, this is all what he said on day one. Okay, guys, like, can we be just a little bit reasonable here and understand that this makes him a fucking gigantic liar? Like, dude, you're just a liar. If you said all that, you're just a liar. You're over-promising, you're going to under-deliver, and a lot of the promises are disastrous anyway. He's so full of shit, and he somehow gets away with it, seemingly more than any other politician. I mean, he won the fucking election. Not saying Hillary Clinton wasn't a bullshitter, she certainly was. But, I mean, this guy, good googly moogly, all of that on day one? My ass cheeks on day one.